Okay, I call the meeting to order.
I nominate Dawn Dutton as chair for EISA.
A second? Say all in favor.
All in favor? No discussion?
Oh, we already know who's policy chair too, by the way.
All right,
Well,
all right.
You're other official.
Three
Chop, chop.
Record the vote, you can manage me.
Okay, so then we will go on to grading manual for grades 3 through 5.
Okay. What I have for you is a draft of the memorial grading and reporting for next school year, 23-24. So what we did was we based this off of what the high school and the middle school did last summer, and we brought it down to a 3-5 level. So it follows the same formula for families, so that way if families already have students in grades 6 through 8 or 9 through 12, they're gonna be used to seeing this type of format in the manual. We kept the grading scale the same for consistency. The course grade calculation, because they're in trimesters, we have it separated here equally through the 3 trimesters, and then they would get a final grade at the end of the school year. In here also, we go through formatives for 30% of the grade in the trimester. And all of this is in draft, so you can feel free to change anything that you need changed. But we try to keep it very consistent. I unfortunately didn't have any teacher reps who were interested in working on this, just with the time of year, et cetera. I think they were just correct. They were just kind of too overwhelmed, but I was able to get at least some elementary feedback as well as from the current building principal. So they have put eyes on this and given me okay, so we have tweaked it that way. So 30% for all the formatives. We go to 60% for the summative assessments, just like the middle school also, and then into the homework for 10%. And you can see here that the goal of homework, again, is to echo the expanded student knowledge, build skills, deepen understanding. Homework expectations will be outlined in the grade 3 to 5 grade level overviews, just like they are for the middle school, and also probably in those student handbooks, the student and parent handbooks, so parents can refer to that often. But this will also be posted to the website, so parents can look at this anytime they need to, if they have a question with involvement, etc. The reassessment and relearn procedures are here as well. They kept going back and forth between if they should keep that at 90 or make that higher. The 90%, if we look at it, would be any child who would receive lower than an A- would be able to make up or relearn an assessment. And this would be for the summatives, not necessarily for the formatives. But the summatives being 60% of the student's grade, we feel that it's necessary to at least have that reassessment or that relearn chance to be able to get higher than, let's say, an 87 on a summative assessment. And then deadlines here, we also kind of echoed what deadlines, what missing work would look like, what those procedures would be. Late work around what formatives, summatives would do. Also, if a student does not submit their homework, then the following formative rules would listed above would apply. So they would have points taken off. Where at the middle school, that shifts completely. And you'll see at the middle school level that students do not have an opportunity to resubmit homework. If they don't submit homework on the due date, it's something that then they don't get a chance to be scored on. So it kind of echoes the high school. So we wanted to kind of create a safety net for students in 3-5 that at least, okay, it's my responsibility to put my math homework in my backpack. If I forget it on Tuesday, at least on Wednesday, I may have a few points taken off, but at least I can still get credit for my math homework. I can get a 95 versus 100. So we wanted the kids to have a few years to get that responsibility, that practice in before then they enter the middle school and high school, and then there's a cutoff with that. We wanted something. Modifications, correct.
Right, like the airplane's taking
I
off.
did see that, that's
Yeah.
how I was envisioning it
Yeah.
as you were explaining it.
Yes, correct. So that was my whole goal, was to make sure that this is a baseline for them. And then the middle school is a step above. And then from what the middle school has in their manual, it then goes to the high school to the highest step. And when the middle school and high school teachers, when we met with them this summer, that was also their goal. They kind of had some cross conversations, okay, well, if we want this as the end goal, by the time they leave as seniors, then what does that look like in sixth grade?
For scaffolding.
Exactly, we are scaffolding, correct. So we're looking at scaffolding down to 3-5 and what's going to be most effective and what's going to be considered best practice for that age group. Modifications and accommodations, that's kind of the same thing that you would see 6-12, and that's pretty general. And then the academic honesty and integrity, that's really part of our district procedures anyway, and that would be taught within, like, the library sciences under the research component within library. Any questions?
No, I like how it scaffolds from 3 to 5, 6 to 8, like, it just, it's goes back to that alignment that we've been working on in general.
Or what are you thinking?
I was just sort of, in my mind, I wish that there had been teachers that had put more of the input, because my understanding was at the lower level, that's where a lot of the hesitancy was, so I think it would have been nice to have had some participation to see where they were at. I mean, I know as a board, the goal was to get to this. I just, I think we gave an extra year for that to happen, so I just.
And they actually sent several emails, reached out several times, and then even the assistant principal at the time personally reached out to several veteran teachers.
Yeah.
And still nothing. I'm disappointed too. I really wanted them to be part of this, and I know that there were some types that they couldn't work around that we kind of wanted for that scaffolding and that alignment piece, but it would have been nice. I plan on taking this back so it's not a surprise to them.
Yeah.
I'm working through this with them so they understand the whys and doing it that way.
Can I ask for
not ideal.
just a brief non-public due to reputation?
Absolutely, yeah.
Sorry, Dr. Brown,
No.
just in the hallway for 2 minutes, I'll come right up and get you, okay? But we also have to,
Non-public for our thing, I1A, colon 3, Rule 2, whatever, that's on with it.
Yeah.
So,
All right, yeah, you want to let,
Sorry, let me open up that can on my first meeting.
But it's important stuff to understand.
But that was, I mean, that's really literally, that was the first thing you said, I was just like, you know, keep talking, I don't really follow it.
sorry, Pam.
so is this the final product?
So this is a draft for your review and for the board's review. So I didn't know if you want to see any changes before we bring this to the board.
So can we just, if anybody has any changes, can we just, or any questions or suggestions, can we maybe email
Yes, that's
and just before, by the,
Yeah, I would
Friday
send
before
it
the
to
next
if we could
meeting.
send it to the board drive, so the board could look at it
Yeah.
before the meeting.
yeah, put, maybe put edit access on it, and we can just put questions in.
Maybe it would be good if Christine can, and I don't want to speak for her time. Christine, maybe it would be good for you to figure out a process or I don't know if it would be to go to a staff meeting at Memorial, but where the folks on EISA were concerned that teachers didn't engage in the process that they were invited to. That maybe we just at least show it to them and get some preliminary feedback so the board knows what the teacher, I don't think the board should see it if the teachers haven't.
I agree 100%.
And that's so my idea, and I didn't want to do that either. That's why this was a draft. And what I wanted to do, if not a full staff meeting, at least bring it to team leaders.
Yeah.
So that a team leader meeting, they could at
That's
least
great.
review it,
Yeah.
and then they could bring it back to their teams, with what's tight and then what's loose to kind of look at. It may look very different when we get another draft of it for the board, but at least I don't feel comfortable not having teachers' eyes on this.
Yeah, I don't want to vote on something that the teachers have
Right.
not had eyes on or had any feedback on.
Correct.
No, and so if we could maybe put this into the drive, we can add comments to it. And then if you get feedback from the teachers, you can add that feedback into the comments so we can see it as well ahead of time. I think
You may
that-
make adjustments to the document,
Yeah,
right, and then bring it to the board with the updated version.
yeah, and I think that's kind of the goal is to, but take all the feedback, put it all in, and then, make some modifications. We'll have to have a deadline for when all of that, I guess, maybe when you put it in there,
Mhm.
let us know what your deadline is so that you can make the modifications you need, and then we can go from there. So
June 21st would be the final drop dead deadline because it's the last board meeting.
Right, no, but for her to have all the input from
Yeah,
everybody
yes,
prior
yes.
to, so she can make the modifications for that June 21st board meeting.
I think that would be the best board meeting to have it on.
Yeah.
Because that way, if she needs to talk to some teachers, there's a couple of PD days in there that she can ask some questions or check
And we
in.
can do it like via email if we need to make changes.
Yeah,
Yes, that's what I'm thinking.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
So it's in the drive and we can add comments and then you can make some modifications, you can send us an updated draft of it, like.
But I think it's a really excellent start. I like the scaffolding. I really like how we're teaching these kids some independence, some responsibility, but also giving them that little cushion. And then in middle school, you know, it works really well together.
Good, okay. I can do that.
I forgot, where did we leave off? K through 2 is not being reviewed, but like, that's not on the plate, or is that on the plate next year?
So it's actually on the plate right now.
Okay.
So what we're doing K2 is there's a small group working, with Beth and myself. I couldn't join them today because I'm here. But we're working on revising the language per what the board is looking for in the strategic plan. So revising some of that language, making it more parent friendly. And then looking at, what's actually reported out, because of the length of that report card and making it something that's, the board wants to see that 1 or 2 page document, with something along the lines of, my child can, you know, do things independently, my child needs support, or my child needs a lot of scaffolding kind of language to it. But they are working on that, and our hope is to have it for next fall also. That way in Alma this summer, I can spend time reworking the report card. So having this, the 0 to 100 report card for Memorial, and then switching what Bakey looks like to that more common language.
So Bakey is eventually gonna go to number scale?
Um,
I thought that
So that's
was-
something that's up to the board. They're just kind of working on the language right now.
Okay.
It wasn't something that was really spelled out,
Yeah.
for us to kind of
Yeah.
look at. That's up to you
I'm
guys.
not comfortable with that for K through, you know, I mean, as a Bakey parent right now, I don't think the report card is extremely overwhelming or extremely hard to you know.
It wasn't that it was overwhelming or it was that the data that was there just, it's hard to understand, like, okay, like, what does this really mean?
Yeah, I'll have to
Like,
go back
that's-
and look at it, but like, I haven't, like, I wasn't like, but a lot, as a parent and philosophically, I do not think pre-K through 2 should have letter grades or, no, like, I just feel like it just, I don't know, I don't agree with it, so.
Well, that's why they're doing a bunch of work, because I think what was kind of given was do some research, see what other schools are doing, see what will fit the Bakey school, and also tie into what they're gonna move into for 3 through 5, what will prepare them. You know, that was kind of, if I remember correctly, kind of how it was.
And that's what I remembered too.
So it's, there's nothing set in stone right now as to how it will be done. It's, let's get some research, let's, you know, kind of do this the right way. And if we have to start from scratch and come up with our own grading, then, you know, we do it, you know, we have to do what makes sense. So, but for right now, I really like this. I hope the teachers like it. I know one of the big things that they did not like at Memorial was the fact that it was, number grades that were tied to the old letters. And in Alma, they had to hand enter because they didn't correlate.
And so with this, when they switch over to the traditional
It
model,
will grade for them, they won't have to.
correct, so the teacher would simply put in math fractions, 93.
And it would populate the letter before they put in the number, and they would have to hand enter whatever the letter grade was that correlated based on the
So I-
old.
Within that comment.
So I just pulled up Molly's report card, and it breaks it down by core areas, and it breaks it down by the rubric of each core area. And then it's IP, PE.
It was the IPPE, like, there was
That's what I'm
like,
working on changing.
that's what they're working on changing, is like making it so it's like, okay, well, what does proficiency really mean? Or what does in progress really mean? Is there better language to help the parents understand where their kid is really at?
Correct.
That's what the real hang up was the, you know.
Yeah, and
What does it
I know
actually mean?
personally, I had been told that you couldn't get an E in the
And
fall
that
because the E meant you had already
Philosophically, how do you
mastered the
integrate it as
skill.
well? Yes.
You couldn't, they're not teaching that skill until May, so you can't get an E today.
And I've had.
That was
people
just
the same
something
thing,
that I
so-
had been told, so.
And that
that's
was
they're
the
trying to get rid of that.
inconsistency that we're trying to get away from by creating new, or updating.
And that's what a scope and sequence will actually help you to
Correct.
set a pacing guide for, I got a name for this trimester because I am completely confident in the following things that were done this.
Exactly, that's true.
So then what happens when you have a kid who walks into kindergarten and can already read?
Welcome to first grade.
But you know what I'm saying, right? Like, I just don't believe that you can't get an E on some, I just don't agree with that.
Well, and that's
And they're
the thing,
moving
but
away from that.
Yeah,
there
that's what
were
we're moving away
teachers
from.
that didn't
They didn't understand, yeah.
philosophically believe in that, so they refused to do it.
Well, look, it's like I have an executive director that doesn't believe people sometimes can get a 5 on something.
Right.
Because on a scale of 0 to 5, like 5 is like, you're amazing, like you're the best there's ever been. But it's like,
Right.
but some people are really 5s in some of those areas.
Right.
Yeah, but
So
argue
it's
that
more of a
many people are
philosophical
strengths and
discussion, we're
areas
trying
of
to turn it in from philosophically, where do you think they are, to where are they, and how can you support that with data,
Mm-hmm.
is really kind of more what it boils down to, like.
For the kids that can't come home and tell you. Yes,
Right,
Yes.
right, exactly.
that is true.
And I think for me, like I've been doing the IP, the P and the E, like for still having an older child. I mean, like I've been doing this for so long, like if I know what those mean, but I agree, a lot of parents might not know what that means.
And I mean, I, same as you, like, but I still always question, but where is my kid at? There was still a lot of questions, especially in that like IP or P, I'm like, okay, well, because it's, oh, well, they're where the class is, okay, but is the class where they're supposed to be? And that's where there's the confusion, because I'm like, but I know my kid is behind, but you're saying that they're proficient, well, they're where everybody else is, okay, great. What is that? You know what I'm saying? Like, it's more of a grade of where they are at based on where they're supposed to be, not necessarily based on where their peers are at in the class.
Yeah.
It's, that's, I think
The bar.
it's where is the bar and have they met it? And that's what I think we're really trying to hit at the pre-K 2 level. So,
Well, I'm glad that at least the three of you feel like we're headed in the right direction.
Yes,
So because we didn't have, look, we're super disappointed that we didn't have anyone who was able to engage. So we agree with that feedback and we will bring it back and ask for input
Yeah.
before it comes to the board, which is why I was thinking the 21st gives us a little more
yeah,
elasticity
no, I
to
think
get there.
that, and then you let us know when you need all of our input prior to make sure that whatever
And
modifications.
I think really stress that the board wants their input.
Yeah.
They are the experts. in-
We have,
You know,
we will
But yeah,
again.
maybe if they hear it's like, maybe if they hear specifically, like, the board's asking for it, maybe that would just be one more little push for them.
And I think a great place to start are the team leaders.
Yeah.
That
I love that
smaller
idea.
committed group,
Great idea, Christine.
just to try to get them, and then they can move their teams.
Yeah.
Okay.
And if you attend one of their meetings, it's part of their stipends, their work, so they can do that there.
And I can have a timeline, when I upload the document, I'll include a timeline, so.
Thank you.
Okay, no problem.
All right, so next on the agenda is updates on the K-5 literacy program.
So teachers in grade K-5 spent time during the fall and winter looking at various reading programs to pilot and or to adopt for the 23-24 school year. 6 initial programs were brought up by various teachers and staff for review. So with that, we had to base it on very set criteria. Before we even looked at programs, it was, okay, let's fill our literacy buckets. So then what would that look like? one of the great things is as we're going through this literacy process, the state is also pushing the science of reading. So they're looking at, shifting the focus away from kind of a cueing system into word recognition and then also the language comprehension pieces. So making sure that we align with what state expectations are. Because there is a House bill right now, it's kind of sitting and it's in pause, but it's looking to really make sure that every public school district has a reading program K-5 that does just that. So that was part of the set criteria, looking at ed reports, looking at the program's curriculum maps. So what are the standards that are actually instructed? And then what are the standards that are actually assessed within each of those grade level curriculum maps, looking at what skills, like the skill strands, looking at the knowledge strands within each of those grade levels. Do they have rigorous assessments in general? Are children being challenged and pushed to that next level? And then also within that, are there ways that we're scaffolding for kids that aren't quite there yet? And then also, how are we going to be challenging the students who are ahead as readers or who can comprehend at the next grade level? Do they have components that would then fit that so we can provide some enrichment for the students that need it? So with that in mind, I came up with 6 programs. And as they were doing this, the state was creating this law. So by the time January came around and there was proposals around this House bill, a few of them had to drop off the list because they didn't meet the science of reading criteria. One of them was F&P. So that Fountas and Pinnell reading program, because it has so much cueing within the program itself, it doesn't meet that science of reading that the state's looking for. So we had to kind of put that on the back burner, just knowing how much a reading program would cost. We don't want to adopt something only for the state to come up with something in a few years and say, oh, no, sorry, you can't use that.
Do you know what bill it is by any chance?
437.
It's, House bill.
House Bill 437.
Thank you.
Good times, yeah.
Love reading bills.
So if you have any questions, let me know. It goes extensively into not only the science of reading, but then it talks about upping the dyslexia screener to 3rd grade, actually having it so any child who's not on that proficiency or grade level, creating plans, almost like individual reading plans, that the teacher would then report out to the families and say, okay, your child's not comprehending on grade level. These are the things we're going to do in class. This is your tiered intervention. This is how I'm going to assess your child. And that would happen every 6 to 8 weeks. So there's a lot of pieces to it. I don't know. Right now it's stalled. I don't want to get too much into that, but we'll see where it goes. But we want to be ready just in case.
I know a lot of kids, dyslexia has missed quite a bit, so.
And I think we've gone away from phonics and decoding and that word like recognition, that sight recognition, phonological awareness piece, so much that we're missing that. So instead of, there shouldn't be a picture sometimes to tell you that it says cat. That cueing piece, they should actually know, breaking down those decodings of cat. So it's teaching them those pieces. I know it sounds very basic, but education's kind of gotten away from that. And going back to those basics of having those phonics lessons, those phonics books, incorporating that, especially K2, that'll be very heavy in whatever program is chosen. And then from there, we also had to tie in the connection to science and social studies to meet the NH306 laws and also to build the background knowledge. So there's a lot of working gears and pieces within this that we had to kind of think about before we even looked at programs. So from there, they went and they kind of looked at, okay, well, these are kind of the programs we're interested in. And during some of the PD days in the winter, we looked at, okay, let's evaluate each program using this checklist, using a checklist that would include things like decoding, phonological awareness, sight recognition. Does it build vocabulary knowledge? Does it have background knowledge? What literacy knowledge? What verbal reasoning's in there? Those pieces. So what teachers did was they worked in groups or as teams, and the literacy specialists were part of this, etc. And so what they did was they actually took programs and kind of sat there and does this program have this or does this program not have this? What are some great pieces to this program and then what's missing or wish that was included? Some programs didn't have enough phonics. So teachers talked about that. Oh, we're going to need to have something, purchase something like a Haggerty program to make sure that we have a balance between what we need for phonics K2 and then what's in there for like a reading comprehension component. So through that process, those gallery walks, those talks, that some of them were weeded out as well. And then from there, they also met with different vendors. So the companies like McGraw-Hill, et cetera, met with the teachers via Zoom, and they walked them through the program. So here's a program overview. What do you think of this, et cetera? And then the literacy specialist and the ELA coordinator, Karen Malone, collected the data. And then from there, we kind of looked at, okay, so what are some of the programs that stand out? And there have been several that have stood out. And it's interesting because several grade levels are leaning towards one, and then 3 or 4 grade levels are leaning towards another. So there's kind of like a balancing act and the why between those. But a great deal of time and energy and consideration has been spent reviewing each of these and discussing those choices. So all that feedback was collected and it's been shared with all the building administration. So we've had conversations with the building administrators, K5. They've looked through programs. They've had time to ask questions. Then also shared it with members of EISA who was on EISA at that time. And then we've been able to provide them with some feedback, some materials within that program. And then from there, we're kind of looking to review those materials and that feedback. So I know, for example, Jamie took a ton of materials with him. So he's read through all of the various programs, every single workbook, teacher's edition, et cetera, which is wonderful. So he's been able to provide some feedback and do some research. We also looked at what are various districts doing around us? How are other districts kind of scrambling to look at what's going on? And so everyone in our radius is either in the process of looking at one and going through a pilot possibly next year, adopting a reading program, or scrambling to find something. Because some programs, like one of our neighboring towns, they've been using Journeys for a long time. Well, Journeys is no longer going to be in print. So now they're like, oh God. So now they have to try to find another reading program that fits that need. Several other districts are currently using Fountas and Pinnell. So they're now going away from that and they're trying to adopt something within the science of reading.
The new law that could.
Correct,
They're
yes.
like, all right, well, we gotta get ahead of this.
And I think there's also a component of this, if people were honest in looking at the data, that we're missing the word piece, that phonics piece. If we looked at our data, we have holes so badly that because they've moved away and gone this whole language route, and not that it's bad, I mean, to each their own, but to look at it from the lens of, you know what, our kids are really struggling because we haven't provided a proper foundation. So they're kind of recognizing that too, and I think it's nice that the state is actually doing this because it's giving districts permission to review reading programs and look to beef them up in a way to support their current learners.
Which is mirrored, and the reason why Troy is here in part is because we recognize that in order to support special education, you first have to have a clear program and process for tier 1, which is for all kids. And then Troy's purchasing programming for tier 2. We're trying to align all of this so that tier 2 and 3 in special ed know what they're pushing into, right? So that it's all connected. It's not or, it's and.
It is, yes, it's definitely and. And then also, so Tom and I are going to be meeting with some of the veteran staff from each building tomorrow to discuss the choice of a reading program, the process the board's going to take, the implementation planning piece, and then also defining and supporting fidelity and implementation of the reading program, like what those things is going to look like. Next Thursday, we're actually taking a group of teachers, K5, to observe one of the programs in action at a neighboring school district. It's been very nice. They've welcomed us. We're gonna have them in classrooms, time to meet with administration, teachers. One of the reps will be there from the company, so the teachers can ask a variety of questions and kind of observe what's taking place in real time, which is wonderful.
And what I've told the teachers, man,
Yeah,
I'm doing a great job, I don't wanna,
I'm almost done.
oh, go ahead, keep going, I'll say it after. I'll try to-
No, I just want to make sure that if any other school board member would like to review the reading materials, just to reach out to me via email or call me. I'm happy to provide any information, any of the reports we collected, or any of the materials for you to review, or I can sit with you. Just please let me know what you need. and
I
I'm happy
really
to
would
help.
like to, I gotta get through baseball season first.
You got it.
I just have a question, is in terms of putting on weight, no, I probably will not go through all of them, but I will trust your opinion. My input would be, is one more technology-based versus another? Because I'd like to see something, like, just a weight on, this one is really watching videos and reading on a Chromebook versus this one is more like book and paper and worksheets.
Mhm.
I realize that Chromebooks or I think they might have iPads that they need, they're not really going away. They're never gonna go away, but I would like to see us put more emphasis on not doing everything on a computer. So that would be my input of if there's a way, that's something I'd like to see.
And one of them in particular, especially for K2, said that the online options are very rare because they are so young. They really wanted them to focus on actual physical materials and the physical art of writing. Which leads me into something that just passed with the governor, is we have to bring handwriting back.
I saw that first.
So, in their schedules next year, and I've talked to both the elementary building principals, one of the programs actually has handwriting as part of it. So we're going to have handwriting K2, and then the cursive, which is what the law is really about, 3-5.
So what will happen with the kids who are older?
That's a very good question, something we have to talk about as a district.
Yeah.
And what we want to see put forth, especially, well, if it's in this building. You're talking about the children that are in 6 to
Yeah.
12 who haven't learned cursive.
Like when my kid applied for a job and he couldn't sign his name.
Exactly.
He printed his name, but
Yeah,
like,
we can't, our ninth graders cannot sign their names.
And we have to talk about cursive in these two buildings as well.
Yeah.
So that, and the thing that's hard is that, again, I don't even, I'm not saying that I have a problem with it, I'm just saying it's an unfunded mandate.
Yeah.
We need time, materials, and work.
Does it say when is it effective for for the 23-24 school year? So they don't even,
July 1,
so they don't even give you time to come up with a program, it's just.
and they don't fund anything, so.
Yeah.
no, so we have to decide which type of cursive we're going to be teaching the students and kind of go from there, and then what that would look like 3-5, and then.
Basic enough so they can sign their name. Honestly, like I don't, like most things are done on the computer, as Maura said, but I do think kids should learn how to be able to sign their name for legal
And
documentation. Cursive.
Recursive. Yeah, because my mom writes them letters, cards, and they're like, I don't know what this says.
Right, yeah, can you read this to me? I can't read this.
So
Okay.
here's,
That's good to
that
know.
on the reading, if you don't mind, I just.
Oh, yeah.
You're fine.
For the sake of time.
Sorry, we're going.
No, we're just, it's okay, because it's all going on at once. Thank you, I'll take 12.5. After these time for public comment. No, I just wanted to say that, that it's hard because we've got a group of staff that really like one reading program. We've got a group of staff that really like another reading program. And then we've got a third reading program that people don't like as much, but I can't understand why, because they haven't clearly articulated what the issue is. And so we're asking the veteran teachers to help us to understand the whys of the ones that they like versus don't like, so that we can get a clearer picture. And I've made it really clear to everyone, this is not a consensus decision, it's an input model. So everyone can give us feedback, we will listen and seriously consider it, but ultimately the board has to make a decision on which program. And we are not going to have, I just want you to be ready, we're not going to have a clear winner with the staff. Some staff already are completely divided. A group of people want this one, and a group of people want this one.
Is it separated by school?
No.
It's a little bit of both.
Okay.
Yeah.
So,
I'd be curious to, like,
what
the
I'm
case
not
too.
willing to
and I've already told the teachers it's nothing new, is to have a different program K2 than or than 3, 4, 5.
They did ask for that.
They did
That was
ask
my,
for
that was my question, if it was like the schools were divided versus the teachers.
Right,
Yeah.
I don't, for consistency, and
Or no, I think
I,
it should
I would
I
like to
think it
see
should be
something,
this-
but they did ask.
I think it should be the same K through 5, just going back to that scaffolding conversation we had earlier.
And then
For
alignment.
his programming for the whole thing, it goes back to last year when we picked one math program for high school and a different one for middle school, but the one at the high school was more aligned to K5. It just made sense to do 6 through 12, the same program, even though some people didn't get what they wanted. I want everyone to have what they want. I want them to be happy, but that isn't always gonna happen when we're dealing with hundreds and hundreds of people.
And it's really, we have to ask ourselves, what is gonna be best for the children in this district?
Yeah.
And make them secure leaders and writers.
I mean, I like us moving back to, phonics and sounding things out and decoding and,
Fluency, instruction, all those
I
pieces.
mean, I'm old enough to remember in high school, we had vocab books. That's how
Really wise.
Yeah.
I love those.
my little yellow vocab book.
I will say all the work that we've been doing in special education, I've been vetting through Christine. And through her team, and through, Karen Malone and Donna Donnell, because whatever it is has to kind of align in the direction we're going. It also follows the science of reading. So everything that we're picking up for interventions does align with the science of reading. We do have a couple queuing systems because, well, when you have a student with verbal disability, the queuing system actually is what you have to use. So there are some alternatives there, but that's because of the disability alignment.
That makes sense. When you're talking to the teachers and asking them, maybe I know it hasn't been clear as to why they don't care for one of the programs. Can you ask them if it is about, they feel like they're not gonna get enough training? Because it's a lot of stuff they're not doing right now. Is it, they feel that they are gonna need too much training, or they feel that even when they get the training over the summer, they're not gonna get continued training?
Thank you. We'd be happy to
I
ask
think
them.
that's important, because if it's a
That's
training piece,
important.
is that what's holding them up? Is they feel like they're gonna get thrown with something taught over the summer, and then they're not gonna get any more training after that? Because if that's a hang up, then we just need to address that.
That's a good question. So in both programs, and I've been speaking to the representatives, I've included training for several years. So it goes from a basic understanding of the program to year 3 coaching. Perfect. So we're looking at programs that, and there's gonna be pieces, and I know already, like, we're going to have a committee next year, a steering committee for reading. And we're gonna be looking at the data, they're gonna be going back to their teams, getting information, because I recognize that certain grade levels may need help with fluency and decoding. Where, you know what, grade 4 needs this specifically, so we're gonna have to look at training people based on their needs too. So then kind of divvying that up. Yes, some basics, so we're all, there's, some fidelity in the program, there's consistency and alignment, K5, but then also recognizing our teachers are in different spots.
And,
So we need to be providing that service for them and making sure we catch them when they need it.
and what's our track record as a district with new initiatives? So I've been through many new initiatives in my career as a social work, and we very much get things thrown at us, and you're just baptism by fire. So for some of these teachers, what is our track record as a district? Like, I know it's a whole new admin team essentially, but some people may be bucking it because historically we've not done a good job with follow through and training and coaching.
And that's what I'm wondering, if they're afraid that they're just gonna get tossed to the fire and then just.
And then also get reprimanded
Right.
from their administrators, well, you're not doing this, you're not doing this, because they don't have the training or the skills.
Right.
So when I was talking to some of the teachers, and I said, well, this is my idea, what do you think of this? So what I was going to do this summer, we have an admin retreat in August. I'm gonna meet with the K5, the assistant principals, the principals, and train them up on the evaluation process on a look for. When you're watching a phonics lesson and you're observing this phonics lesson, here are the look fors. When you're doing this, that way they know what to look for, and then also training the staff next year in PLCs. So meeting with them and saying, this is what, when you're evaluated, this is when they come in, this is what they're gonna be looking for you to be able to do. Where are we on this? Where's our comfort level? And let's identify right now in August what we need further training on and how we can help you. So that way, everything's open communication, everything's very transparent, because I don't want that either. I want to make sure that we build in enough years to make them confident, but also have enough time to where we have, if we have some turnover and some teachers leave, we have other trainings in place and some coaching where people can come in and then train the literacy specialists and Karen to be also honestly mini coaches. So they could also go in and say, okay, let's work on this. We talk to the PLC, our data's looking a little iffy. Let's all meet so we can work on this. And then we'll do the I do, we do, you do. I'll stand up here, I'm gonna teach this lesson on decoding today. And then tomorrow, I'll be still here, but I want you to do this.
And, I'm curious, where is Sam on all of this? Like, does she, Sam,
Right?
Briggs, yeah. Is there something she likes better than others?
Sam hasn't been part of these,
In high school.
so she's been part of the
Oh,
discussions.
see, I thought
with
she was
five.
the reading specialist for the district.
She's the special ed reading
For special ed,
specialist.
Karen Malone is the person who
Oh,
works
okay.
at the center.
All right.
Karen has been.
Karen's been directly
Oh, okay.
involved.
Yes,
Okay.
and so have both the literacy
Excuse me,
specialists.
for some reason I
Oh,
thought
just got your wires crossed.
Sam was.
Yep.
And if I could just jump on, I think that's a really important point, but I would also just like to know in general, why don't you like it? In that, I can totally see that being a big reason, but in general, don't just tell me you don't like it, tell me why.
That's what I'm
It might
saying.
be another
Yeah,
reason.
yeah.
I don't want to hear, I'm gonna give more merit if you give me why, and you can validate
Thank
it,
you.
than just saying I don't like it.
And that's what
That's,
we're,
that's
that's
really
why,
important,
We're trying to
because
dig
I
down
wanna
tomorrow.
take your feedback, but I really wanna know what you're thinking.
And that's why I think we're trying to meet with them in a smaller group to try to get to the why. The why, and then if there's anxiety, then we can build this around this. So we don't really understand it. Like, I understand parts of what they're saying, but then we need to talk about, oh, well, this Lexile is too high. Well, that's the read aloud. The read aloud for Lexile is supposed to be higher, the classroom teacher's reading it to the students.
Right.
So it's those bits and pieces, and it's okay, we're gonna work it out, but I agree,
Yeah.
we don't really know the true why yet.
and that's why we pulled together a group of veteran teachers to ask them.
They can
I want them to
articulate it.
explain it to me, so that when I'm in front of the board, I can say, I've spoken with people and this is why, and until I have a real why, I can't accept anything else. It needs to be specific.
Yeah,
Right.
you need feedback.
Right.
Yeah, and I want it, because I don't wanna buy something that isn't gonna work.
Well, as a board member, I don't want to spend money on something that's not gonna work either.
Right, and I think you're right about the implementation process, so it's 3 parts. 1 part training, 1 part continuous support, once you've been trained and you start to implement. And the part about evaluation is more about, for 90% of teachers, evaluation is a growth model. Where an administrator's observing and just giving feedback, and it's a help thing.
Yeah.
And most really great teachers love that. Like, hey, I watched this meeting, or I did this and that, and I'm thinking about this, and they're working collaboratively on it. I don't really view it, what I am hoping will happen is that we'll have an alignment in the curriculum so that every kid is learning the same things at the same relative time throughout their time at Sanborn, regardless of who they have as a teacher. So they'll know and be able to do the same things, regardless of whether or not you're their teacher or you're their teacher. It might feel a little different because you have different personalities. So part of what the group that we're putting together will talk about is what's tight and what's loose, right? Like, because there's some stuff that, and the teachers just want to know what's tight and what's loose. How locked in will this be? But the part that and I've been really clear with teachers, so I'm not saying anything that anyone hasn't heard. The part that's going to be locked in is the scope and sequence. This unit at this point is going to be this. And they're going to learn how to do X, Y, and Z over this 6-week period. And if they don't get it, what are we going to do about it? And that's why Troy's here. Or the RTI process that I've set up through the reorganization with the interventionists. And you can't do that part until you have an aligned, viable curriculum.
And it is 5 o'clock, so.
And I just, if we can have this go to the June 7th agenda, that would be most helpful.
Yeah.
Just so I can get the teachers' manuals in time for the PD we have at the end of the school year.
Do we think we'll have something solidified by June?
Oh, we're
7th?
down to 3 programs and we're down to really.
Okay.
Yeah, we are right down to the end. We've been working really hard. It has to be June 7th so that we can have the materials for the end of the year.
Well,
Sorry, you
just
guys
the
are just
teachers.
coming in kind of at the 11th hour.
Yeah, well, we've been working.
That's why I
on
think there's so many
students.
questions, 'cause-
Yeah.
Yeah, that's
Okay.
fine, that's fine.
Yes, I know it's not on here. Is everybody okay with amending the agenda so we can have public comment?
Yes.
Okay, great. Dan, do you have anything?
You guys are making me laugh, because as a teacher, we went through the same thing, it's like herding cats. You introduce something new, and the teachers say, well, I have this procedure for assessment, I wanna know that assessment. This one's working, why do I need this one?
Right.
I was just gonna ask you, instead of the 30,000 foot view, how about the 100,000 foot view from the budget committee, which is where I am now? I'm just wondering if we're gonna get an update on our targets, our academic targets, for math and English, that are in our strategic plan.
Yeah, you can, why
Are
don't
we
we do
meeting them? Is the budget sufficient to meet goals, or how are we doing there? That's all I wanted to ask.
just give Christine a call.
Yeah.
Okay.
And then the academic targets, for this year, the students are just finishing the SAS testing now.
Okay, thank you so much.
You're welcome, of course.
All right, so next meeting date, June 21st at 4 PM in this room. Meeting's adjourned.